What is an expense and what is a write-off? Is there a difference? And how does it affect your tax bill? Hi, I'm Julie Merrill. I'm a CPA and I thrive on helping individuals and business owners grow their wealth and save taxes along the way. If you've ever heard the term write-off and you're just not really clear on is that an expense? Is it the same thing? Stay tuned in this video. I'm diving into the difference between write-off and expenses. So when we hear the term business expenses, we are referring to money that's spent on the business to pay for ordinary and necessary costs that we incur as business owners. It truly is money going out or money spent to operate or grow your business. Now that expenses might incur things like software, payroll, subscriptions, computers, iPads. It's going to include insurance. The list can go on and on. It truly is, as a business owner, what we spend money on. Now, when we go to file our taxes, not every expense is deductible or fully deductible. That's where we get into the little difference between expenses and write-offs. So what is a write-off? We just described what expenses were. Write-offs are when we can deduct that expense on our tax return. What does that mean? It means when we take a look at our tax return and we report the revenue we've collected, so the money we've collected for services or products that we've sold or services we've provided, and we subtract out the deductions or the expenses that are allowed on our tax return to get to our net profit. That is the net profit is what drives our taxable income for our business. But not every business expense is 100% deductible or even a little bit deductible. So every write-off starts as a business expense, but not every business expense becomes a write-off. An example of this is meals. So as a business owner, if we have a business meal, it's a meal for our board of directors meeting, or we're taking out a client for a meal, or we're doing a networking event where we're purchasing a meal, or we're on travel and we're paying for meals. Those are business expenses. There's a business purpose for that travel, and you are dining or purchasing food as a result of being in that location for that business reason. Business expense all the way. Now, the IRS code, though, doesn't necessarily allow you to deduct 100% of business meals. In fact, it is only 50% that's a write-off or deductible, even though the full cost is a business expense. As a business owner, what does that mean for you? You still use your business credit card. You still pay for those meals with your business funds. So it's cash out of your business because it is a business expense. But when we go to file your tax return, or your advisor, your tax preparer goes to file your tax return, you might not get 100% of that as a tax deduction or a write-off. So in this example, as a business owner, if you pay for it, can you deduct it? Not always, but most of the time, yes. Another example where you might have a business expense that's not a write-off is if you incur penalties or fines. So if you were maybe late filing your state statement of information, your annual report, and in addition to your normal annual tax, you have some penalties. Those are business expenses. They are incurred by your business and you pay for them with your business funds. However, penalties and fines are not deductible. So we will see that carved out when we go to file your taxes because they're not allowed write-offs. Another example of a business expense that may be and is deductible on your federal tax return, but likely not deductible on your state tax return, is state taxes. Whenever we pay state taxes by the business, and we go into a full strategy on this with the pass-through entity tax, it becomes a deduction on your federal business tax return. So it's an allowed write-off for business return. But states typically don't allow you to write off state taxes. And so it is not a write-off on your state tax return, even though you can write it off on your federal tax return. At the end of the day, when you pay state taxes for your business, it is a business expense, and you would pay for that with your business funds. As a business owner, it's super important that we use business funds to pay for business expenses. And while it's very important for you to have knowledge of what's a write-off and what isn't a write-off, it truly comes down to your tax filing and working with your tax expert when you file your taxes to know what is allowed and what isn't, because simply the code changes. In fact, we're going to see more changes when it comes to very specific costs like meals and entertainment in the coming years. And we're going to let that go to the tax pros to decide what's allowed and what's not. Now, knowing that type of information is super helpful in advance, because if we can justify a different business purpose for that type of meal, maybe if it's a training versus just having an on-site meeting, we might be allowed to find that deduction. So having the knowledge up front is super helpful in how we categorize our expenses and what type of planning we do when we expend those funds. But that is really the difference when we look at business expenses. That's what you focus on when you're operating your business versus what you can write off. It really comes down to when you file your tax return. Are you curious about what you can deduct in your business? I have a free guide below where you can download a full list of what is deductible in your business with a list of some things that are not deductible. Again, we always advise you work with a tax advisor who stays up to date on tax code for the federal tax return and your estate tax returns that you file so that you can optimize your tax deductions and let you as the business owner focus on your business operations and business expenses. To summarize, business expenses are when you spend money or spend funds on costs that are incurred to operate or grow your business. Write-offs or deductions are when those expenses are allowed to be deducted on your business tax return and decrease your profit, and at the end of the day, also decrease your tax bill. Again, if you would like to download my free guide, there's a link below in the description of this video. Like and ring the bell for notifications of future videos like this. I'm Julie Merrill. I'm a CPA, and I'll see you next time.